Welcome to everyone. This is Contracommon's second installation of OnSite. I'm super excited to be here with our gallery director, Kelsey Baker. And Kelsey, how are you feeling today? I know we all had a late night with our opening last night. You're here in the studio. What you working on?
I'm gonna be working on a painting. I've done like one layer of underpainting on, so it may not be very exciting, but I'll be making some bigger moves than I normally would be.
Awesome. Do your underpaintings usually go pretty quickly?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I did the quickest part of it already, but I'm gonna just do like washes of color over stuff, so
Mm-hmm.
it'll look like I'm doing more than it normally does when I'm painting.
Are you using is that a burnt sienna? It's been a hot minute since I've picked up oil paint, but what's your underpainting strategy? Do you have anything that you start with?
I started with burnt sienna, so you can see on the other camera that my face isn't on. The whole thing is in, yeah, just burnt sienna. And then the majority of the kind of like source material I'm working from is also red. So there'll be a lot more red on it. It's not going to change that much in terms of like the warmth that it's got.
Mhm. Awesome. Very cool. Well, do you want to? I don't know how well you paint and talk at the same time. I know it's always a problem for me, but we're excited to see what you've got going on. And I was wondering if you're willing to speak back of how you've got to this point. So you're gallery director here at Contracommon. You've been with us since June, July, May, sometime in the summer of the pandemic, right? What happened before that? What was your trail?
Um, I moved back to Austin after getting my master's degree in 2020. I got here like mid-June. Kind of moved in right after that. So,
Well, we'll let you get painting. For any of our folks watching, I know we've got almost 10 people, I think, watching right now. If you guys have any questions, please type them in the chat. We will ask that you keep your video off just so that we can keep Kelsey on view. But we are excited to answer your question. Kelsey, how big is this painting that you're working on right now? It looks gigantic next to you in that other camera view.
yeah, it's not that big. It's I think 36 by 48, pretty standard size, I guess. I don't know. I prefer to work like this big. I think that the like if I'm also just blowing up the source material, it is easier to do finely detailed things
Mhm.
like this.
So exciting. What is your preferred size of painting to do? Do you like to work about this?
I think this is definitely like a pretty comfortable size for me. In terms of like painting, I'd probably like this. I love making really big stuff, but I think pivoting towards like installation helped me like deal with that impulse without having to make like enormous paintings.
I remember in college, I walked into the painting studio. Kelsey and I got our bachelor's at the same college. I'd walk in, and Kelsey was the year ahead of me, and I was overwhelmed by walking into the painting studio and just seeing Kelsey's space just filled with canvas. Like, what are those the stretchers behind you for that gigantic one?
Yes, back there they're folded in half because we like built them. My partner who collaborated with me on that, Christine Harbor, who might be here right now.
I think she just logged on.
We she helped me build them up in the studio, and then we realized they didn't fit in the elevator. So we had to like cut them in half and reinforce them with aluminum bars with like screw holes drilled in them.
Ah.
That was a fun adventure that nobody at Southwestern bothered to warn me about.
Oh my gosh. How big were they all in? Were they like something crazy like 20 feet long? They looked like 20 feet if they weren't.
They're 7 feet tall and about 11 and a half feet wide.
Oh my gosh.
So folded up, it's 7 by like 5 3/4, something like that.
Oh my gosh.
Just a tiny bit more manageable. I don't really know what to do with them,
How
honestly.
many did you make? There were a good number of them. So that
We built 4 of the frames because we had originally intended to do 4 paintings for that project, which it became abundantly clear that like we couldn't get all 4 done in the timeline that we were supposed to have for that project, like, which didn't end up mattering, but
yeah.
all the canvases, and I've used 2 for that original. They're like originally intended purpose, and then in grad school tried to paint a painting kind of like in this vein at that size, but I just feel like I didn't love it. I think it was for a number of reasons and not just because it was so big. Like,
Yeah.
that painting is off the stretchers and like rolled up around my roll of canvas, and I don't want to take it out or ever look at it again, really.
Oh gosh. Oh, well, I don't even know where to go. I'm still like hit with the memory of walking into the studio the first day that I saw those stretchers like in the middle of the room. I don't know where to go. Oh. Well, now, so like I mentioned, you're a gallery director here, and you've been curating shows. Did you had curated a few things before coming to Contracommon? Has anything? What's your take on curating? Do you love it? Do you hate it a little bit? Have you learned anything big in the last? I know we just put together a national group call for an exhibition called Soft that'll be happening here at Contracommon at the end of April, beginning of May.
I think probably the I like curating. I guess that was a lot of questions at one time. I like curating. Yeah, I do. I like it best when it is more of like me seeing a connection between people's work and sort of letting them run with it and do what feels right to them, which is what happened with Aria and Sydney's show that's up right now. And I'm happy with how that turned out. Here it is. I'm excited about Soft also. I can't really speak on like curating a group show sort of so officially like that because I've kind of done it before, but it was more of a like, just give me whatever you got. And I had a theme kind of in mind that wasn't so, I feel like the open call for Soft, we didn't really have necessarily like conceptual ideas in mind. But I was like, I want it to be soft sculpture. That was all I had.
Yeah.
And now that we've like, sent out the acceptance emails, which I guess you would only know about if you got one. But now that we've sent them out, and I have a pretty clear idea already of like the layout of it, just because I felt like I had to in order to pick the stuff.
Right.
A lot of it so just based on like practicality. I'm excited to see like it all happen in the space because it's always different than you imagine, even with mock-ups and photos and stuff like that. I'm excited to see how it goes.
Yeah.
Something else I was going to say, but I lost it. So,
well, maybe it'll come back to you in a little bit. We do have 2 questions in the chat. One of them is from Detached Malachi. They want to know what helps you tap in creatively lately.
I would say that lately I haven't been able to like do that particularly just because of like time constraints, but I don't know. Sometimes I come to the studio and I don't feel very like ready to be here or paint, and that becomes evident the entire time I'm doing it, and it's just kind of like not working that day. But lately, because it's so like few and far between that I have studio time, I'm usually like pretty ready to go. I have a bunch of like commissions sort of backed up that I would love to get done before I start working on this stuff for. I'm gonna make all new stuff for a show in November, I think, which is mainly just gonna be my main focus is gonna be a video projection. And I think I'll probably make a few paintings or just one big one. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure yet, but I have some general thoughts about it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I, yeah, like because I'm trying to get through all this stuff and I have several kind of commissions I'm working on at once. It's nice to like bounce back and forth between them. And I like always have something to do. I don't have to come in and like come up with an idea. I can just start painting, which I like a lot. I don't know.
We're still going through a pandemic. I feel like it's hard to tap in sometimes, and, like cut off the rest of the world. I think it helps here at Contracommon. We're kind of isolated back here in our studios. So once you start to tap in, I feel like it's easier to just lean into it.
Yeah. I think the thing that has been helping me a lot lately is having multiple things going on at once, which is advice that I did get in grad school, not that I ever took it. When I was working my thesis, I suppose I did have a bunch of stuff to do at one time, but that was also like all for one project. But I've been finding it really helpful to stay motivated when I can like pivot between doing like fine detail stuff or do this sort of like fill up the space, start coloring it in and layering things on.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of that, Aria is wondering what color of paint or pigment do you use for your underpaintings?
Burnt sienna always. I like ones that are like more orange than brown. I know there's always variation between the pigments depending on what brand it is. Honestly, like I became really comfortable with Winsor Newton because I use them at school, and I feel very like aware of what they do when you mix them together. And I'm sure there are better paints and that I could benefit from branching out a little bit, but that's the brand I use. And I like that their burnt sienna is very orange also.
I recognized it right away because that's what I used at Southwestern.
Yeah.
Because I saw your underpainting, I was like, oh, I bet she's using that Winsor Newton. Molly is interested to know if you're working toward anything specific right now. I know you just mentioned you've got all those commissions in your show in November. Is there any more deep diving you want to do with that?
With this show, I don't know. I have had a video project in mind for a long time that I want to do for this show. And I want to make paintings that work with it and possibly an installation, which I definitely strays from painting, but would involve painting to a certain extent, I'm sure. And right now, particularly, like hopefully this week, if I have time, but we'll see. I want to really like get a solid plan for. I have this like it's not necessarily a script for a video, but like scenes of it written out, like the imagery and stuff, which sounds like a weird thing to say, but I just have like a bunch of descriptions of all the scenes because I don't really have any dialogue in any of the like video installations I've made. I don't tend to have it in this one, but who knows? But I have that all kind of squared away and the concepts and everything. And I really want to make a plan, like a plan of action is that's the goal I have right now is like, what can I get done in the next like 8 months? Like, when am I going to do what?
Yeah, calendar it out. I definitely need to do that for myself. Speaking of calendaring it out, I know right now you've got the 2021 gallery schedule here at Contracommon pretty locked down, and I know you're working on 2022. Do you have any like big goals for the Contracommon gallery and you're curating for 2022? Or are you still kind of like feeling it out? What are you What are the
I'm still kind of waiting to see like who at Contracommon is interested in having a show.
Mhm.
Hoping to get some like solo show applications, but
Yeah.
I can't rely on that. Last year I got things pretty nailed down. I want to say in like by August. So my goal, I think, is to do that again this year, maybe earlier, but that doesn't seem realistic. So
Yeah. Very cool. I'm excited. We've got so many different types of artists here. It's always interesting to see. And you did such a great job pairing Sydney and Aria together for the show that's happening now for their solo shows turned dual show. It's been I really enjoy using the space that way. So I'm pumped to see all of these other pairs that you've come up with. Did you make the connection with Molly and who's she showing with? I already forgot.
no, Amanda Witucky is who she's showing with, and that was all Molly, which is like much easier for me. And I mean, she like ran it by me or whatever. I don't even know if that's the right phrasing. She was like, "This is the person that I want," and I was like, "Wow, I see the connection already just from looking at it." Like, and it's also pretty different too, so that's like exciting. And I've talked to them a little bit about it, but honestly, don't know like exactly what it's gonna look like. But it's probably gonna be really good still.
That's gonna be rad. I was shocked. Like I didn't know what to expect with Sydney's work. I couldn't, for some reason, in the images, I just couldn't get
Yeah.
like a sense of scale or a sense of like what they would look like in the room. And now it's all together, and it just feels like it was meant to be. Pennington, say hello. Julia says, "Ooh, it seems so intimidating to try to plan 22 right now."
Yes, that's kind of how I'm feeling. My idea with the schedule for 2021, with the full knowledge that like we're in a pandemic and so like nothing has happened like it normally would normally happen, was that I was gonna pick like the big like events that happen in Austin. So then you have like West Austin Studio Tour, East Austin Studio Tour, Print Austin, which has already come and gone. And just kind of plan stuff around that so that if we wanted to participate in it, we could with whatever was up there. That being said, like we've obviously found out now that like I don't think the West Austin Studio Tour is going to happen anymore. Which like whatever, we're still having a show during that time. That doesn't really change anything necessarily. But that was the idea, and I suppose I'll do it for 2022. But yes, it does sort of feel like who knows what's going to be happening. Not me.
So you taught a lot of things when you were getting your MFA. You taught beginning painting classes. Do you see yourself doing more of that in the future once pandemic restrictions go away and we can use our backspace at Contracommon? Will you teach things here?
I would love to. Yeah, I obviously like don't really want to get gatherings of people together until
Right. At least until the CDC is safe. Yeah.
I really enjoyed teaching and would love to get a job in academia, but like I don't necessarily think that like there are enough of those for everyone. There aren't. It's not even really a question. You can teach people in other settings, and I would, love to do. I would be obviously worried that like I would advertise a class and then nobody would sign up for it, and like it wouldn't actually happen, which would be awful. But I could teach 2 people at one time. Like it doesn't have to be 20, I guess.
It's true.
Yeah, I taught beginning drawing for 2 semesters. And then I taught beginning painting, which was really great. And I felt like, yes, I'm really doing something like useful, and this feels like what I want to be doing. Because while I can draw, I'm not like, I don't love it. Not really my thing, and was like not super into teaching it. Because it was just like, especially at a school that isn't necessarily arts focused or whatever. It was like a required one, like a credit people could take for like their required fine arts credit or whatever, and like those aren't people who actually want to be in there. But yeah, I really enjoyed teaching. I want to teach again. I will probably, I wrote syllabi for those classes and have a great syllabus for beginning painting and would love to use it. I would obviously probably like adapt it to this setting in like a hobby class rather than like a university class. And I wouldn't have to give grades, which is dope.
I can't even imagine the process of grading people's artwork. Like I'm overwhelmed sometimes in our virtual critiques. I'm like, how do I approach it? Like, and then to put like a quantifying number or letter on it, that would be terrifying.
Yeah, I did not love that at all.
Yeah. Ooh. Very cool. Again, folks, if y'all are tuning in, thank you for being here. Y'all are welcome to type questions in the chat. We'll make sure we get to them. It's so exciting. So Kelsey, you mentioned that this portion of your painting process will look like it's going much faster than it normally does. How long would you say that you would usually take on a painting about that size? You said it was 36 by 48?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I had a really unwelcome realization after I finished the last painting that I worked on, which was also a commission, very similar but half the size. Can you hear me? Sorry, I got quiet because I'm sad. But I put together the time lapse because I was like pretty militantly like making myself do that every time I was here just to see like what would happen. Yeah, it was cool or whatever. I don't necessarily think it was worth the amount of stress I put myself through for that because it was just like a 5-minute video. But when I stitched it all together, I realized that I literally finished it in like 10 sessions of painting. So could have been 10 days if I had them done consecutively, but it took me like fucking 6 months or something to finish it. Which is just
no. Yeah. I mean, that's crazy to think about. I've never like I do like one-off time lapses, but I've never like militantly, like you said, time lapsed every single session. That's really interesting.
It made me feel like some kind of way for sure.
I could definitely see that vibe. I definitely had this like 9-foot drawing on my studio wall from like last November through like this October, I think. Like a year's worth of like this painting was just on my wall and it really didn't change too much. And like my parents were like, how long did it actually take you? It was on the wall for that long. And I'm like, you do not want to know that answer. It's not a question.
I don't want to know either, but I guess it was very eye-opening. And I like, for now, until May, have 2 jobs that will pay my bills for a while and a set schedule, which is something that I was lacking for a bit. Mm-hmm. And I'm just gonna keep my like nose to the grindstone, hopefully for like a few months, and then I'm trying to get the commissions done before my jobs end, so that once they have ended, I can just focus on making that video and making all the other stuff and figuring out what I'm doing with life and stuff. I don't know.
Molly is wondering if you can talk about what your current paintings mean to you.
Yeah, I can. These paintings are honestly all from the same source material, which I need some new material, truly. I'm reaching my like the end of my like usable stuff here, but these are a bunch of photos that I used a macro lens to take photos of aluminum foil with like different colored lights on it, not LED lights, like actual bulbs. They're much soft, whatever the other kinds of bulbs. I don't remember what they're called, but they're just not quite as bright as LEDs because those are so kind of like blinding. And it made this really soft, like kind of terrain. That's what I think about it as. Incandescent, yes, I just saw that. I think that's right. And I like why I like painting big. Like this, I think is the best size because you can fit your body like in it. And the smaller ones are fine, I think, as long as the folds of the foil are still relational to the size of your body or your hands or something. But I just am trying to build like something that looks like a space in this. Like I can share my screen with the source photo on it if you want.
That'd be so cool.
Here. There.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So a lot of the stuff that I'll look for, and sometimes I will just like like cut parts out and Photoshop them and blend them so it has a little bit more like depth or something like that. But yeah, I think of them as just like environments and want you to relate them to your body a little bit. Can you see my mouse?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And I think of in this piece, I think of this like part right here as kind of a horizon line. And then it has that really strong kind of photo. There's like the thing with the lens focusing like intensely on the foreground, like blurs stuff in the back. And that's such an easy way to kind of indicate like breaking up space in something. So yeah, I just think of them as like landscapes basically. And I like that they're sort of like familiar, but so divorced from their setting that you wouldn't necessarily be like, oh yes, aluminum foil. I know exactly what that is. Like, I'm sure that you could guess. It's at least like some kind of wrinkled material, but I don't know. I also just love color, and people like buying these, and I like painting them. And I don't really want to keep like focusing all of my like body of work on this, but first and foremost, I want to get paid to make paintings, and like these are what people like, and I don't mean to say that in like a derogatory way because I also like them and I like painting them. It's just not necessarily like what I would want to build a gallery show with, because I also want to make stuff that's more conceptual that people might not necessarily want to buy, which is obviously not the way to like make a career that pays you necessarily, but it is, I care more about like conceptual stuff in the work I'm presenting in that way than like what is sellable, which is just my personal approach and not like a value judgment on the way anyone else chooses to do things, because I, like I said, love painting these and I want to get paid to paint and do that too, for sure.
It's so hard to straddle that line of like what can you make that will pay you to continue making. It's definitely, it's hard to find the line of like continuity between those two types of work that pays you and work that matters more to you in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Julia wants to know, when you're working with the foil, how do you get the shapes do you want?
It's been so long, honestly, since I took photos, and I've tried like to do it multiple times, and I really always go back to these because these were honestly taken in a pretty like casual situation, and it was like there was daylight happening in the room too, and I only have LED colored lights now, so it just doesn't do that like soft wash of color thing. Like the reflection is always like too intense and the brights like really blow out in the photos, I guess. But I basically was trying to get kind of big folds in there so that you could have that sense of like a landscape versus just like a million tiny wrinkles, by crunching it once as little as possible into a shape that had like some kind of like hills and valleys, if you will. And then just kind of moving around the foil with my camera and body and like moving the lights around. And I would change like the colors that I was using. And I got like like a couple hundred different photos that I have. But like I said, I'm really like running out of material and have started to alter them a lot in Photoshop just to get some variety because I have been working with these for a while and I'm like, I'm just a little bored with them. Um, but yeah, that's why I want to start doing other stuff because I can paint lots of things, not just foil.
I don't think I realized until really recently, like in the last couple of months, that they were foil and not fabric, just because of that like really smooth undulation that you're achieving with the color. Like I never would have guessed like aluminum foil, like you said, it's like crunchy with all the little teeny tiny folds. So I never would have guessed.
It definitely wasn't like there were probably other materials that would have achieved the softness I was looking for much easier. But I never make things easy on myself when I'm doing this stuff also. So
I know how that goes.
I'm gonna turn you up a little bit and stand up again.
Oh yeah, yeah. That red is gorgeous. What is that color?
I'm using cadmium red and cadmium red light. I'm about to put some cadmium red light down. It literally looks orange to me.
Oh, nice.
I use it as an orange and mix it with like to get an actual orange color and some highlights on red. We'll mix it with like a not a cadmium yellow, like a really intense, almost kind of green yellow. Because it in place of white, just basically I don't use any white with these colors because I know that they get really pastel really easily.
Mm-hmm.
Which again could be solved probably by switching brands, but I know how to make it do what I want. So, and I'm not going to get rid of all the paint I have. Like I have a bunch of the paint that I bought like as a sophomore in undergrad when I started painting because I paint so thin.
Mm-hmm.
It's cost effective, if nothing else. I wish people would stop asking me to like do something else I don't want to.
How many layers? You said you paint really thin. How many layers do your paintings typically take? I know we just talked to Aria last week, and she said hers can take 5 to 6 even. What do you say your layer count is typically?
Um, it's gotten to be a little more in recent years. Like I do take feedback from people and integrate it into the way I do things. I was in school and did listen when people told me stuff. I sounded a little bit like stubborn there, but um, I used to make it much harder on myself. I think I probably do like 4 or 5 layers. But I just know how to make like stuff happen easier now than it used to be, which feels nice. Like
Yeah.
even if I never have time to paint anymore, I feel less like I used to sit down at a painting and feel like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. And be like, can I paint? I don't know if I can do this.
I feel that way.
But yeah, that's me.
That's awesome.
And now I feel like I can sit down and be like, yeah, I'm just going to do it like this. And I think teaching helped a lot with that because I had to really like break down like how do you actually do and like explain it to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I was terrified to do this for so long, but like, and I rarely did it in my drawing classes, but I started doing like live demos in front of my classes and was like terrified, but I did it and was like, oh, I can paint and do all of this stuff that I'm telling other people to do. Like I know how to do it. Confirmed.
It's more than just theory. Like we can do it. It's physically possible. That's funny. I know a couple of folks who teach that just do not want to do live demos. It's like even worse than public speaking. Like I don't know.
That indicates to me. something a little concerning if they're teachers. I don't know.
Yeah, it's fair.
I just felt like, especially with painting, it was like, I have to do this. I have to be able to do this. And like, I know that I can also.
Right.
And good. And I think it was always really helpful. I'm sure that some people just sat behind me and like looked at their phones, but others would like, especially when I was teaching, I did some still lives a couple of times for like different reasons, like learning how to use color or do like an actual like traditional still life sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And people would like just paint the same still life setup behind me and follow along. And both of the people who did that regularly like made better work because they were like watching me do it and also looking at the same thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I feel like teaching, especially painting, helps me like gain confidence in my abilities, if nothing else.
We've had a few folks join us real recently. If you guys have any questions, please type them in the chat. We'd love to answer them. Be here for another maybe 15, 20 minutes. We've taken a sneak peek into Kelsey's studio. Ooh, Arya's got a question. She says, yes, it was meant for you to become an artist. It seems like it comes so naturally to you. And you and I talked about your college career in art, and I'd love to hear about the class or person or event that attracted you to becoming a painter.
I have always had a confidence problem, I guess, with art. I don't know. I've always really liked it. And I did sculpture only when I was in high school because for whatever reason, I don't know why I thought this, but I was like, oh, well, I can do that because it's easier, but I can't draw and I can't paint. Like, that's just not something I can do. And at the age of 17 was like, oh, I'm behind already. Like, so I missed my chance, like, which is so silly. And then I went to Southwestern and was very like set on getting a very practical degree and a job, even though I like never really wanted to do that. And I was getting a psychology degree and having a lot of trouble caring about it. And I mean, I got over my like freshman bullshit of like not going to class, but it really wasn't enjoying it. And I took scene painting, which is a theater class where you literally just like, I learned a lot of stuff there, especially like trompe-l'oeil things, which for oil painting is a helpful thing. Like, it's a helpful thing to know how to create illusions. And it was also a lot of just learning how to blow things up from an image, like how to make an image much larger by painting it. And I really liked that. And I was like, I kind of like painting. I can do this. It's not real painting, but I can do it. And then I was like, okay, I'll take abstract painting. And I took that at Southwestern. And I was just like, oh, I really like, or actually, no, I started with representational. I did. I was terrified of it because, again, I was like not confident in my ability to like basically just to recreate things from life, like, which I can do. And that was silly. But yeah, I was like getting a minor and hated my major, but I was like, I'll get an art minor and that'll make me happy or whatever. And I just finally remember like just being like, I don't want to, I really like want to switch them. I don't want to keep doing this. And I was living with or next door to this guy named Charles Morris, who's a sculptor that went to Southwestern, and he was always in the fine arts building. And I was like, I loved that building so much and was like, I want to spend all my time there. I'm like jealous. And I just like pulled the trigger on it. I went and talked to Professor Varner, who runs the program and teaches painting, and was like, I really want to switch majors. And she thought I was telling her that I wanted to switch out of art to something else.
Oh no.
And then like midway through the conversation realized like what I was actually saying and was like, oh yeah, like you should definitely switch. What? That was really funny and sort of the end of it. And yeah, I just really love painting. And then again from there, when I was like, I can be a painter, it was like, but I can't draw. That was my next like, I can paint, but I can't draw. For whatever reason, I was just super hung up on drawing and like, I can draw. I can. And I could like then. And I took the classes and I got better. I totally can. I don't know what the deal was there, but here we are. I've also always like loved the idea of being a filmmaker or whatever. And doing video art was kind of my way to do that. And I always wanted to. And in 2017, I helped somebody that I know, Juliana Jankowski, just with a video project that she was working on. I think it might have been for school, but it was still a really cool like video that she was making. And I got a little taste of it, and then was like, I did the same thing where I was like, oh, well, I can't do that. And I finally started doing it in grad school and then was like, oh, you can just do whatever you want to do. And like, nobody's going to tell you that you're like ready to do it or anything. I don't know. Very silly.
I think I've sort of found myself waiting sometimes for like an imaginary thumbs up. Like, yeah, you can just go do that. Like, I forget that like, as artists, we can just make our own decisions and do whatever we want. Like we make the rules. I think I've heard you speak about when getting your MFA, didn't you have to kind of break out of painting a little bit? You've got your installation, you've done your video work. What was that like? Was it like a ripping away from painting, or was it like a, yes, I'm still afraid of painting, let me do this other thing?
I was not afraid of painting by that point. I was definitely entrenched and did not really want to do other stuff, but I went to a program that really, really like emphasizes is a very kind word. They really emphasize like doing a lot of different things, especially just something that like isn't something you've ever done before. And so I was like, okay, fine, I'll do video, like to appease you or whatever. And did it very like, I don't want to say ironically, but just with that affectation of like, oh, well, like, I know this is going to be bad. And like, I'm just doing this because you're making me, which is like so silly. I mean, I was also like genuinely doing it, but I don't know. I just found that I liked it, and I learned how to use Premiere, and then was sort of like, okay, well, and I did a lot of research about video, and particularly like video installation, and I found that like the idea of creating a space that like envelops you or that you feel like is relational to the size of your body. In the paintings, it's that like they literally are like you could fit inside them, and the stuff in it feels like you could grab it, and that is like kind of the size of your body. But with the installations, it's like the opposite, like you're inside of them. Mm-hmm. But it's still relating to like the way that you're moving through space and where you exist at that moment and your sense of like place and time. And so that's why I think that they work together. And I'm still sort of like working through how to marry the two together in a way that doesn't feel like these are videos and these are also paintings and they go together somehow. And I think that breaking away from the rectangle in my paintings is maybe a strategy I'd like to explore to do that.
I saw you've got some round canvases over there just out on the floor.
We're going to start with circles.
Yeah.
Also for a commission, to be honest, but we're going to start with circles. And I have two that are kind of on hold for this commission, but I have 3 more that I think I want to be in the show. And I don't know like what will be on them, but I found when I was painting stuff for my thesis that wasn't like this, that I could still get a similar sense of like materiality and like illusion without having to do such obsessive like detailing of things. I can paint faster and make the thing happen still. And part of that is because I can do really quick underpaintings, but if I just sort of pivot to like we're gonna do like 3 versions of an underpainting, but then that's just gonna be the end of the painting, and we're not gonna do all the little like I'm really getting in there and like spending 2 hours on like 4 square inches or whatever. Like I was trying to get away from that. I think I will probably continue that for the show. But what I plan to do generally, and I've been walking around and collecting video that I won't necessarily use for the final product, but it's just sort of like inspo, like, oh, this moment feels like nice and related to like what I'm trying to think about in that one. And I'll probably use just screenshots from that sort of like research material stuff that will probably be, it'll feel like a still from the video or weird little kind of surreal moment, sort of in a little circle, but again, it's sort of related to your body. I might make them bigger and use just a different size, but that's sort of all I've got for like the planning. I also want to put the projection in the media room, which sticks off the end of the gallery, and utilize the sort of transition through that door into a different space to. I want to make like a tunnel or something that you have to walk through, and then you come out on the other side, and it's like a different place. That is related to the setting of the video. That's what I got.
Yeah, that's so cool. I've thought about using that, yeah, like that doorway, just trying to like expand it to hide it, but still have it act as that sort of transitional.
Yeah, like instead of hiding it though, I'm just being like, yep, you're walking through a doorway, but it's also important that you do that. Like you need to step over this threshold and like move into a different part of like
Correct.
Yeah, because at my grad school there was a weird door in the gallery that like was painted over, but you could still open. It was much like that one in the Southwestern Gallery that like it's like, why is there a door here? This is weird. And everybody like was always really bothered by it and like wanted to ignore it. And I like desperately wanted to do like something that was like, we're not ignoring the door. We're acknowledging the door. And like, it's a door that goes nowhere.
Yeah, we've got 2 of those in the Contracommon gallery that have been hidden by a big fake wall. I don't know if
that was necessary. I think
those were different types of doors. We did need to hide those. But I know all about the doors to nowhere. We've got our fair share of them. Is the piece behind you? It's from your thesis show. Was it designed to be like a doorway? Is that correct, or did I make that up?
No, you're right. It's the size of like a standard door frame. And I was like envisioning presenting it literally in a door for just that like extremely heavy-handed illusion of like, this is a door that goes to like this kind of space. And I got talked out of it by my professors, but I think that there is plenty of room for the uncanny and like camp is I think the word I'm looking for in surrealism and like serious things, which I'm trying to like think about, but in a way that isn't like, this is all about like dreams and your subconscious, like, and is more experientially telling you that without without like hitting you over the head with it. I don't know.
Yeah. We've got about 10 minutes left, so if y'all have any more questions, please just drop them in. We'll make sure we get them all. This is so exciting. I'm so glad to do this on-site kind of studio visit. It's so important, I think, to peek into everyone's kind of spaces and be inspired by what they're inspired by. Very cool. Ooh, I have a question for you. That brush you're using, it looks very exciting. I was wondering, I feel like when I was painting regularly, I was really rough on my brushes. I feel like I was cleaning them, but I feel like I was lazy about it, and like I would only use one or two brushes, so that I would only have to clean one or two brushes. Tell me about your brush strategy.
I just try to avoid spending money on supplies. It's a lot of it, but I also I don't want to be wasteful. And I feel like a lot of people do sort of like mistreat their brushes and like I saw so many students in particular like throw them away at the end of the semester and stuff. And I'll just be like, I have all the brushes that I bought originally. I mean, they're obviously like not useful as they like in the way that they were when I bought them. Like I've had to trim them and like change the shapes or use them for different things than what I originally got them for. But I think that you can use many like there's some brushes I need to have be really particular, but I can find a use for like even the most really overworked ones. Like, and I really do very thoroughly clean my stuff with ivory soap or dish soap if I'm out of the ivory just works so well. I think because it's a bar and you can like really rub it in and everything. But yeah, I just really like take care of my supplies. I don't know. My breast situation usually ends up with like me holding like 5 in one hand with like the one I'm actually using like right here. And then once I've got like 11 or so in my hand, I'm like, okay, this seems like I've probably been painting for too long. We should probably stop.
Julia says Edward brush hands.
Yes, most definitely. Yes.
That's so funny. I find myself doing that with like pencils and charcoal and like erasers, like the stick erasers. I'll just like, yeah. And then I always end up like, my hands are always, I see you're wearing gloves. My hands are always like,
I started to have like really bad effects from the like paint thinner, like just on my skin and like with my eyes. Also, I already have like eye issues just because I have bad eyesight and like I've been wearing glasses since I was in middle school or whatever. But mineral spirits and like chemicals that have fumes are really bad for you, it turns out, and they like can physically affect the structure of your eyes. I'm just trying to be safer. I like the switch to Gamsol. I think was really helpful to me. And yeah, I want to keep doing this. So in order to avoid getting cancer, like I'm wearing gloves.
Definitely a good move there. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about, Kelsey, that we haven't brought up yet? We haven't asked you about? Cool. Well, I think we might leave you to it. You've got that whole corner done. This view with the whole thing behind you looks so cool.
I feel like I didn't get much done, but like it was nice to talk about stuff. I feel like I can think I'm doing the like shower monologue thing. I don't know if I'm just like the only crazy person that does that. It was worse when I was like a kid. I would just like talk about stuff to like think about it out loud, like someone was interviewing me or whatever.
Yeah, I do that for sure. That's definitely not a crazy person thing. I think that's maybe an anxiety thing, but it's definitely normal.
But yeah, I just did that at y'all basically. But it got the gears turning. I feel like I don't know. I haven't talked about anything like this in a long time because we've been like going and doing events and all that stuff like so much.
Yeah, we've been running like pretty much nonstop since July or August. It's been crazy. I'm like I'm so glad. I'm so glad that we've been able to like come together, all of us, and got you and Forrest and Aria and everybody else who's new. We're rocking it out here. So, well, thank you. We've got a bunch of thanks and nice messages in the chat for you. So I'll let you read them in a little bit. And thanks for having us in your studio. I'm sure I'll see you around here in a couple of minutes. Um, Thank you to everyone who came to visit for OnSite. We'll be doing another one next week. We actually have OnSite scheduled with Iris Rylander of Allegory Handmade. It's going to be Saturday the 13th at 2 p.m. And in our gallery right now is a show curated by Kelsey, by Aria and Sydney Weston Scow. So please come by, see something like yesterday. It's on view in the gallery through April 2nd. We're open weekends 12 to 6, or you can make a weekday appointment just by sending us an email or a DM, or go to calendly.com/Contracommon. Anything else is on our website, contracommon.org, and also on our Instagram at Contracommon. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That was my marketing spiel. I appreciate you all. Hope everybody has a good day. Enjoy some sunshine out there.